Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this session of Chicano Latino Perspective. This is going out live, hopefully, and this is our first initial live broadcast with using the latest technology and updated equipment that we have, and hopefully we're coming through loud and clear for you. My name is Reynaldo Cervantes, and I'm the producer of Latino Chicano Perspectives. We're going to be with you for a whole hour today, and we're going to really cover 4 segments, and each one of the segments will be about 13 minutes long, and it'll be interrupted. We'll have a little pause there for a little public service announcement, and about 30 seconds later I'll come back on with another topic, hopefully, if the topic hasn't finished. But today, we're going to be thanking Cherry and Bill Clark. Cherry is the owner and operator of the City Commons studio here in South Omaha, from the heart of South Omaha, I might add. And I want to thank them very much for putting up with me and all the whatever we have to go through. Cherry calls me her personal guinea pig, and so I'm happy to be that because this is going out live, hopefully to the whole world, and I hope people are tuning in from across the United States, into Mexico and South America, and what have you. But as I said, my name is Reynaldo Cervantes, and I'm the host and producer of this program. And we hope to be doing this program every Sunday night at 6:30 p.m. Central Time. And it'll be a 1-hour program pretty much devoted to politics and other current event issues that are impacting our community and really the whole United States and the world. Tonight, we're going to break it down. First of all, we're going to have a little overview of the political games that are going on right now regarding the immigration issue and regarding the issue that's going on over in the mid-east. Just answer it. You have some. my phone's going crazy, which is good because people are tuning in and asking questions and texting me and what have you. And I invite you to text me at area code 402-709-4933 and 402-709-4933, and feel free to text and ask me any question that you want. Today we're going to look at the as I said, overview of the political games. We're going to talk about democracy and the role of the people and how it impacts what's going on in the Middle East and on the border, and also the media, and how we're being led by the media to do certain things, believe certain things, how the propaganda machine is in full gear, full blast. We're going to talk a little bit about the stagnation in Congress and how that impacts these other issues and how they're inextricably interlinked. And hopefully, if we have time, after that, the Omaha World Herald today put out a nice report on the state of the political situation regarding the candidacies and certain races that are happening here in Omaha and where they believe they stand. And so here we go. I want to first of all give a little public announcement for my buddy Mr. Willie Hamilton. Tomorrow, which would be September 8th, this is September 7th, from 6 to 8 p.m. over at the UNO Barbara White's Community Engagement Center at 6401 Dodge Street. There's going to be a very special program that's called Community versus Chaos. It's going to be a community dialogue. And what would we do if Ferguson, Missouri happened here in Omaha? And they're going to talk about the impact of race, civil rights, justice, and the role of the media. Omaha need for police oversight. How do we achieve that? Unity and hard working together in our communities. Mentoring our youth to become leaders. Panelists will include community activist Leo Lewis, UNO Professor Emeritus Sam Walker, Project NO's founder Mr. Robert Wagner, and others to be announced. And we invite you to get there early. Again, it's from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Barbara White's Community Engagement Center on the UNO campus. And if you're familiar with UNO, there's one building that has a clock on top, a watchtower, and it's directly behind. It's a brand new facility, $10 million facility, and it's an excellent facility to have this type of a venue going on there, event. Okay, the first thing I want to do is talk about the overview of the political game. Precisely dealing with the President Obama's announcement today or yesterday, I don't know what day it was, that he was going to announce or deal with the immigration issue after the midterm elections. And we're going to talk about politically why I think that's happening, and the fact that we have to take the players who are, by the players I mean the immigrants themselves, the advocate community, then the Congress and the President, all together to see where the politics are, in my opinion, and why decisions are being made that way. First of all, I think that you have to separate the politics from the policy. And right now, a decision is being made purely on a political basis. And that is that when you look at what's going on in the United States of America regarding the House races and the different Senate races, you're going to find that there is a certain atmosphere out there, a certain attitude regarding the electorate, and there's so many things happening regarding the border issue with this Central American children coming on the train and being offloaded there in McAllen, Texas, and being sent throughout the United States to be cared for, and some of the issues that bring them or pressure them to come here to the United States. And you also have to look at, from a political perspective, what kind of impact this segment of society is going to have on the election process itself. And so we have to look at the statistics and look at the voting patterns of, and in this particular case, it's Latinos or Chicanos. And it appears that we don't vote. We simply don't get out in the numbers that we're able to, or people that are eligible to vote. They say that of those eligible to vote, only about 40% of the eligible electorate that are categorized as Latino or Chicano vote. So you have to take that 40% component into the equation here. And of that 40%, a certain percent goes to one party and a certain percent goes into another. So when they're doing the calculations as to the impact on the midterm election, that's what they're looking at. The policy itself, if for example, President Obama says that he's going to give 100% amnesty to all of 11 million undocumented individuals, Well, that's obviously going to have one impact on the electorate. If he would, again, this is before the election, if he would say, well, I'm going to give 5 million people a path to citizenship by this executive order and doing this and that, that's going to have an impact on the election. I mean, at least that's what the political gurus are saying, and I agree. And so when you calculate and take all of this into consideration, then you begin to understand, I think in my mind anyway, why it is that President Obama decided to delay the announcement until after the midterm elections. Now, when you look at what could possibly happen after the midterm, then we're looking, I think, at a sure thing. I think that at some point, some time between now and the new year, that there will be some kind of policy, executive policy developed, and that we'll understand more precisely what's going on here. But in the end, if we're not, by we I mean the Latino Chicano community, if we're not a component of society that's to be put into the equation, and we're not going to have any significant impact on the election, we lose. And so when you look at the demographics and you see the number of quote-unquote Latinos and Hispanics there are, according to the census in America, being around 50 million, and you look at the black community or African American community, another 50-some million, and so we're looking at over 100 million, and then the others being Orientals, Asians, Anglo-Americans, and what have you. When you look at all of that and take it into consideration, we're really not delivering our potential. And so there's a lot of skepticism, and that's how politics works. If you can't help me, I'm not gonna be able to be pressured by you or your caucus to do something that you would want me to do, or something that would be politically challenging for me to do in light of the 2-year election cycle. So I think as a community, we have to learn that with the demographics growing and the fact that we will inherit the earth, so to speak, that we're going to take over the country, at least numbers-wise, that we have to learn to play the political game. And sometimes that game is very hurtful. It's painful. And I think that's what's going on now, is that we've had our heart set for so long regarding the immigration issue, so many promises, right to the brink, and then to have it taken back, that we're really kind of suffering from the impact that it's had on us. So that's a lesson, lessons learned. So it's going to be to our advantage to understand what's going on here, what the lessons are, and what we need to do. And quite simply, ladies and gentlemen, it's get out and vote. That's all that it is. Now, obviously, this midterm election and our voting patterns is going to have a lot to do with determining what more work we have to do. Now, here in Nebraska, we have approximately 200,000 Latino and Chicano population. So of those, there's already been numbers put out there as to how many are eligible to vote. And then we'll compare that with the people who actually come out to vote. And then you have the party issue. How many of those are in one party or the other? Now, what happens when you put all your eggs in one basket, when you play the party game, when you play the party political game, if it doesn't go according to Hoyle, that's what happened with President Obama not coming through with his promise to do an executive order before the summer was out, he loses a little bit of his credibility. But you as an advocate, or you as a person that belongs to this group of individuals impacted, you're going to be very unhappy. But you've already put all your baskets into the Democratic Party, basket. And so when this happens, it's sort of like, I'm not going to say betrayed, but I'm going to say that it's not good. When people promise you something and you don't deliver, it's going to be very negative. So, but where do you have to go? Where, if Obama didn't keep his promise, where do you go? Well, what's happening in the arena, the political arena, is advocates are really chastising. They're chastising him, which that makes sense. But then it's kind of a checkmate, because where are you going to go? To the Republican Party, who has a completely different platform? Well, when you do that, you're at the whim. You're at the whim of the two major parties. And so what we have to learn is these things happen. These sorts of things happen, except not so clearly and not so transparently. And then what else is pushing? What are in the winds, the political winds? And what elements, what systems are in place to educate you with respect to creating this environment? Now, right now, we're on a war footing environment. So if you check with all the major medias that are controlled, corporately controlled, what you will see every day in the media is nothing but talk about the Mideast, ISIS, whether or not we should have boots on the ground, whether or not we should go to war. Every day, 24 hours a day, on these MSNBC, all these other CNN and all that. Now, if you look on Facebook, on the other hand, at least my Facebook, very little is talked about with respect to the war. And most of it is, in fact, talking about immigration. And so you have a mainstream media, and then you have social media. And the two are not, you can see distinctly how the game is played. And so the propagandists are preparing us for war because they control the mainstream media. And that's the one that you can bet that's going to happen. That we're probably going to have boots on the ground, and we may end up into a full-scale land war where we're going to have to think about the issue of the draft and what have you. But at the same time, for the people who vote and have issues to vote about, maybe they're going to be skewed towards the war, because that's all they're being programmed to look at, unless they have Facebook. And on Facebook, it's a completely different attitude, completely different subject matter that's being discussed, and it's something that's near and dear to our hearts, which is just immigration, especially here in South Omaha, where we have such a tremendous number of Latinos and Chicanos in our city now. We're really concerned about that. I'm sure that people are concerned about jobs and Obamacare and all that, but I think the real issue, the main issue that's impacting America today is immigration. That's all it is, because that's a sea change. It's a sea change in the population. It's going to be a sea change in the institutions. And everybody knows that, because all the demographics, all the predictions say that. And so no matter what, that's what we have to deal with. So, coming down to the political game, or the political conundrum that we put ourselves into by only having two parties to choose from, the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. But Shirley Mora James, who's an attorney out at Lincoln, Nebraska, and Dee Dee Blaze, who works out of Arizona, they've created and founded this political party called Somos Independientes. And I really don't know the inner workings of that. But think of it. When I looked at the newspaper today and I seen the breakdown, it had in Omaha so many Republicans, so many Democrats, and so many independents. Well, we don't talk about, because there's no such thing as an independent party, okay? It's an independent registration. And there's a distinction there, because it doesn't have a hierarchy or what have you. It doesn't have, as far as I'm concerned, any rules and regulations other than the rules and regulations imposed upon them by the state legislature with respect to voting rights. And can you vote in a primary? Do you have to be registered this or registered that? That just shows the monopoly that the two major parties have. But if you see that there are, it's almost broken down 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. 1/3 Republican, 1/3 Democrat, and 1/3 independent. That the independent voter are the ones who are going to carry the day. So, I think it's a stroke of brilliance that Shirley and Dee Dee came up with this concept called somos independientes. That means we are independent, but it's said in Spanish. And so that creates, I don't know whether that requires you to actually become registered or that's just a philosophical viewpoint. But even if it's philosophical or ideological, it gives you somewhere else to go. And if you can organize around that concept, if you can organize around this, we are independence, but with the Latin flavor, a Chicano flavor, now you've got a third and credible, I think, option with respect to the politics. That's healthy in a democratic society because that will put pressure on the two major parties to deal with the independents in order to sway them to their point of view because they hold the balance of power. The independents do. Now the independents probably, and I haven't done any real serious research on it, but I believe that if you become an independent, it's typically because you're not happy with the liberal perspective of a Democratic Party or the right-wing perspective, very conservative perspective of the Republican Party. And so you're kind of disillusioned, so you end up in the middle. Means well, you're more or less a moderate. And so moderates, I believe that most independents are moderate because they want to be able to look at the issues and not the party platforms. They want to be able to choose based on the issues that they're concerned with and look at each individual candidate and then vote whom they think is the best irrespective of the party. And now what you have is so many, to me it is a reflection of the unhappiness with the status quo, the two-party system. And so Dee Dee and Shirley came up with this wonderful concept, and I don't know if Shirley's gonna call in. I was hoping she'd call in so we could talk a little bit about Somos Independentes. Shirley's been under the weather. She lives in Lincoln, and she couldn't be on with us today, but hopefully we'll have her on in the future. But it is something that we're going to discuss. Now, naturally, if you're going to be an All-American, and that you're going to work hard, you're going to have the values, you're going to play hard, you're going to pay your taxes, and you're also going to vote as your civic duty. You care about your community, you want your community to look nice. And I can tell you one thing, that I live in what people would say the hood. I'm within this geographical boundary that's made up mostly of Latinos called Chicanos. And it's become flooded with brown people. Not only flooded with brown people, but also people who work hard, people who take care of their yards. They take magnificent care. That could be Shirley. They take magnificent care of of their homes. They paint them, they cut the grass. I mean, they're really sprucing up our community. And so we can't look at that, with the stereotypical, well, these people are going to come in and they're going to downgrade our property, we're going to lose value, they're going to be a burden on our welfare system and stuff. But it's also the foundation that that they're going to vote one of these days. 50,000 young Latino Chicanos become eligible to vote every month. That's a fact. It's a fact, and it's not any number that I'm coming up with. So what I'm saying is that it's not only the change in demographics, it's how we convey information, how we use the media to educate. And this channel here, this Sherry and Bill's City Commons, which you're tuning in now on the webcast, is the way to go for future programming. Now I'm going to take maybe a 30-second public service announcement, and I'll be right back. So stay tuned.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent, because kids in foster care don't need perfection. They need you.
Mom! Mom! What? You can't find Ichabod. What?
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who would love to put up with you.
Severe weather can destroy a home in seconds. There's no time to think, only time to act. Have a kit so you're ready for any emergency. Develop a plan for what you and your family will do before disaster strikes, and stay informed during severe weather any way you can. It can be the difference between losing your possessions and losing your life. Just ask the owners of this house. Visit ready.gov for ways to prepare your family for emergencies.
They said acid would help me forget my problems. There's a separate universe inside each and every one of us. But you kill him. I'm not gonna kill him. Reality is the prison of the mind, and when we die, black holes of our mind open up. We're forced through the gates to infinite insanity. They said LSD would help me forget my problems. They lied. Find out the truth about LSD. drugfreeworld.org.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to this segment of Latino Perspectives. We're very happy to have on the telephone right now Ms. Shirley Mora, the founder, one of the co-founders of the Somos Independentes. I wish I could say that better. But Shirley's on the line, and I want to thank her so much for taking time out of her schedule. She's an attorney in Lincoln, and I know that she's been under the weather, but I'm so glad that she's come on now and wanted to share with us some information regarding Somos Independentes. Hi, Shirley, how are you?
I'm good. Reynaldo, thank you so much for having Somos Independent. Actually, we go by Somos Independent.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And we're our independent voters. I am an ex-Democrat. My co-founder, Ziti Garcia-Blaze from Arizona. She's a former Republican, actually a McCain Republican.
Oh, no!
She is ex-service, armed service veteran. She was as Republican as I was a Democrat. And with the recent and not so recent anti-immigrant, anti-Chicana, anti-Latina, anti-woman GOP that we now have, we decided that for Dee, the GOP was not serving her community. And with the Democratic Senator Ben Nelson vote against the DREAM Act, I realized that the Democratic Party, which I had been a member of since I was 18, no longer served my community here in Nebraska. So we started a group called the Tequila Party in response to the Tea Party and the ugly xenophobia that they profess, the anti-immigrant hatred that they spread. And so that's how the development or how we evolved as a very conservative Republican and a liberal Democrat from two of the most conservative states in the United States, and that's Arizona and Nebraska, how we came together. And it's ironic because it was a white Republican male that introduced us, which we're proud to say is no longer a friend of either one of us. But we thank him without mentioning his name for introducing us. Now, Somos Independents, we're a national group. We are registered independent voters. We are, of course, both Didi and myself are Chicana, Mexican Americans, Latinas, but we really identify as Chicana. That believe that no one party serves the Latina community and their families. That in the 80s, the GOP, through President Reagan, did serve our community by serving the big corporation community. And we just got some benefits from that. Back in the 50s, the 40s and the 50s, my mother registered as a Republican because back then the Democrats were segregationists, especially down south. And so I'm originally from North Platte, Nebraska, and my mother, God bless her, is still registered to vote as a Republican. However, she voted for Obama the last two presidential elections.
Bless her, bless her.
So, for us, in my family, we started out as Republicans because the Republicans included us. And this is back in the 40s. They actually sent a limousine out to the farm to pick up my mom, her sisters, and brothers that were old enough to vote. Now, they had a large family. The Republicans down in Lincoln County weren't stupid. However, the Democrats weren't that smart. So here we are, the GOP, Goldwater's GOP, Reagan's GOP, has been hijacked by the extremists called the Tea Party. And now they are the segregationists, and the Democratic Party finally has found their way to be more inclusive, except they lack the backbone to stand up for our community, including our undocumented brothers and sisters and cousins from south of the border. So we decided, Dee Dee and I, that neither party was a viable choice for any intelligent Chicana that lives in America. That if neither party can serve us, then we need to start our own. Now, at this time, we are registering people to vote. If all the eligible voters of Mexican descent, just Mexican descent, registered and voted, we would be the determining factor in every national election, just like we were the determining factor in Obama's election. We also encourage our fellow sisters to get involved in local politics, get out there, run for school board, run for city council, run for state senator. If you don't find a supporter of your community, then become one. Our motto is basically, and we joke about this, that we're kind of uniting, or we actually are uniting Reagan Republicans with Tip O'Neill Democrats. Because neither one of those animals actually are in existence today in regards to our Chicana community. And it is precisely one of the reasons why Somos Independence is led by Chicana, Mexican-American women, is because we are tired of our vote and our voice being ignored. And the reality is there are more women voters in America, and I mean whether including Chicana. So why not gather up all our sisters who can then gather up their families and get people registered to vote. In 10 years, we will be deciding exactly who's going to be on the national level and our local level.
I agree 100% with you, Shirley. And the other issue is that we are right now going through this process where we feel that we've been kind of slighted by one party or the other, and we have no choice. But you give us that choice. You give us that second choice, actually the third choice, and that is to be independent. And I really like the concept. I like the ideology. What's the status here in Nebraska? What would you like people to do? Where can we go? Who can we contact?
Okay, if you're interested in joining Somos Independence, formerly known as the Tequila Party, you can contact myself at 402-890-2295.
890-2295. 2295, okay.
Or contact me, a better way would be to contact me on Facebook.
Okay.
Under Shirl, Shirl,
Okay.
Mora, Mora, James, James. And then I will get you in contact with our local president, our local state leader, who is Tony Leha Wilson, who is also another attorney here in Lincoln, Nebraska.
Very good.
And I'm proud to say, a fellow Chicana.
Oh, I know her well. She's a very, very sophisticated, well-educated, professional woman. Shirl.
Yeah.
So when are we gonna have our first meeting, convention, whatever?
Well, actually, Dee Dee and I have been talking about that. We had a meeting about a month ago, actually, in Phoenix, Arizona, where we brainstormed about having a national convention. I don't know if we're going to have it next year or in 2016. We haven't decided. We're thinking about maybe having it in Nevada, Las Vegas, because people can get some cheap flights to come in.
Sure. Let me put you on hold just a minute because my time is coming up for a public service announcement. Hang on, okay?
You bet.
All right. We'll be right back.
When I give you the signal, you two cut left to the flag. I'm gonna cover you from that tree over there. Remember, don't go for the flag unless you know the coast is clear, okay?
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent, because kids in foster care don't need perfection. They need you.
They said acid would help me forget my problems. There's a separate universe inside each and every one of us. You kill him. I'm not gonna kill him. Reality is the prison of the mind, and when we die, black holes of our mind open up, and we're forced through the gates to infinite insanity. They said LSD would help me forget my problems. They lied. Find out the truth about LSD. drugfreeworld.org.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to this third segment of Latino Chicano Perspectives. And we're very happy to announce that we still have Attorney Shirl Mora James on the line with us. And she's sharing us some very exciting news and information about the Somos Independent. Somos Independent. And so, Shirley, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here, Reynaldo.
Okay, very good. When we had left off, Shirl, you said you and Dee Dee Blaze, Garcia Blaze, had been talking about the possibility of having a national convention of Somos Independence. You want to go ahead and follow that up?
Yes, we have talked about it. We haven't set the date, time, or location. It probably will be in Nevada. However, we have to talk to our state leaders to see availability and what will work out for the most of us. Somos Independence, we have leaders and members from New York to Arizona, California, Idaho, Kansas. I can't even remember all of the folks that we have. North Carolina, South Carolina. Anyway, it is a national group that started about 4 years ago. And then it's just morphed into Somos Independent because of the recent development. Both the anti-immigrant hating GOP, who has basically hijacked the Republican Party from the moderate Republicans. I mean, what's ironic is the Republican Party now would consider President Reagan a flaming liberal because of his views on immigration. So, and I'm very, very disappointed with President Obama, even though I voted for him. He had once again broken a really serious promise that he made to us. And, you know, my mom said a long time ago, if you can't keep your promise, then keep your words to yourself.
Smart lady. Shirley, will you indulge?
I don't know. Excuse me?
Will you indulge me for just a second?
Sure.
Yeah. Well, and keep that thought in mind of what you were going to say. But in the overall scheme of things, and with the rapidly changing demographics, I believe that this is a renaissance movement because it's going to fit in with the times and the different demographics, okay? And the fact that we need to control our own destinies and determine where and how we're going to get involved in politics. And this is the perfect platform. It really is. And it's something that whose time has come if it hadn't. But I think based on what you're talking about in Obama, President Obama kind of throwing a curveball at us, that this just shows how exposed we are by hooking ourselves up to either one of the major parties, and how valuable a third party or one that we have a real connection with is really relevant right now. It's part of the times. It's part of the changing paradigm in the American body politic. And the fact is that we have some tremendously smart people out there who are very wise to the political system and are trying to chart their own path. So go ahead. I'm sorry, Shirley. Go ahead.
Well, what I was going to say earlier was that you know, we've had as a community. It started with John Kennedy and broken promises he made to Mexican Americans back in the 60s. And I love John Kennedy, but the reality is the reality. And it wasn't until Lyndon B. Johnson made those promises come through. However, in that process of the civil rights movement, Dr. Hector P. Garcia, and if you don't know who he is, look him up. He is our civil rights crusader from Texas, who created the GI form for the World War II vets that were Mexican American soldiers who were being denied rights in the United States. In Texas, and this is when name of Longoria, a soldier, was killed and his remains were shipped back to Texas in his hometown, and the white funeral director refused to bury him because he was Mexican. And it was Dr. Hector P. Garcia who wrote to Lyndon Johnson about the discrimination that was occurring to our vets, our World War II vets, down in Texas. And so Johnson's response was basically, I wish I had the quote right in front of me. I don't have the quote right in front of me, but basically what Johnson's replied, he replied in a telegraph to Dr. Garcia, and basically said that he had no power to make this funeral home serve this Mexican-American family whose son had died. However, LBJ, as a senator, the U.S. senator, arranged for Longoria to be buried at the Arlington Cemetery in D.C. And him and Lady Bird attended that funeral. Anyway, his relationship between Dr. Garcia and LBJ was the reason why Mexican Americans in Texas were desegregated besides the African Americans. There's a famous case, it's called Hernandez v. Texas, where a Mexican American was on trial and they put a jury, an all-white jury, to try him. And that case was taken up and sent to the U.S. Supreme Court because in Texas, Mexicans were segregated and had to use the colored bathrooms, water fountains, etc., etc. And the ironic thing about that is the state of Texas argued that Mexican Americans in Texas were considered white when the attorneys that were representing Hernandez at his trial were forced to use the colored-only bathroom. And they actually used that as evidence that Mexican Americans were not treated as white, even though the state of Texas was arguing that. So this eventually made it up to the U.S. Supreme Court, and the U.S. Supreme Court found this was a landmark decision. It came down the same day as Brown versus Board of Education, but yet did not get the media coverage that it has long deserved. It was the case that decided that Mexican Americans and other ethnic minorities were also protected under the Equal Protection Clause, just like African Americans were. So having said all that, we have to look at everything and each political party in historical context. The Democrats, from the beginning, forsake us. Then the GOP has forsaken us. So we switch back to the Democrats, and then they forsake us. Then we switch back Republicans, and then they forsake us, which now brings us to where we're at now. I'm tired of being forsaken.
Yeah, and I think that falls right in line with the power and the freedom to determine your own pathway, to determine your own future by controlling the political component of what our society has to offer. And I didn't even get into the issue of democracy and how we no longer have a democracy and what have you. But this concept is very, very powerful, and I'm going to look forward to working with you, Shirl, and Dee Dee, and the other individuals, Tia, and try to develop something for the state of Nebraska anyway, and get real serious about getting us some respect and some recognition and credibility, because it's going to be really interesting to see what the outliers are with respect to the voting patterns. So I got 12 seconds left. Say something.
I want to thank you so much, Reynaldo, for your leadership in South Omaha and in Nebraska. We look forward in working together with you, Somewhat Independent. It is time. And I also want to highlight that even though this organization is Chicano-led, many of our state leaders are Latino men, just to make sure that people understand that. We include the whole family in our organization.
Well, it only makes sense that when you're a minority of a minority, that you try to again control your own destiny and your own determine your own future and identify yourself as uniquely as you can. And I think that's wonderful. I think that's a tremendous concept. And I think that when you link it on to where we're going to be at with respect to future demographics and what have you, that it's going to fit perfectly. And if I believe that the people are ready to move on something like this, because the Democrats have not been responsive to to what we would like to be with this respect to inclusive. And this has got to start from the top down. I know there's a lot of popular concepts up there of grassroots, bottom up. I don't agree with that, because in the day of assimilation, the day of inclusion has to start from the top down. In OSHA, we used to have to say that if we couldn't get the boss, the head of the company, to buy off with a safety culture and create a safety and health culture and support it and show interest, that it was never going to be done. If you left it solely up to the workers, they can't police themselves, there's no accountability, and OSHA holds the employer responsible. So the employer had to get down there with the grunts, so to speak, with the workers, and really try to get them to understand that this is what he or she believed in, and that's how he wanted to run his company. Similarly, the Democratic and the Republican parties, they've got to show leadership with respect to embracing the Latino Hispanic community. I know they want to, but they just haven't been successful. And I think that something like this would be very important for them in terms of tap into. But nevertheless, we're not going to wait on them. At least you're not waiting on them. And I think that it's a wonderful movement whose time has come. It's the changing times, and believe me, and you know it as well as I do, the winds of change are in the air, and we're really going to do something positive here. So, Shirl, thank you so much. God bless you. God bless your family, and thank everybody for tuning in. And glad I sent all my wishes out, good wishes and blessings and prayers to my family and friends all over the United States and the whole world. So thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you, Shirl.
Thanks, Reynaldo.